I'm Gloria Edwards, 32, and I never thought I'd be standing in my kitchen, clutching legal papers from my own parents. I worked grueling 60-hour weeks to buy my Chicago apartment, but they wanted me to sell it to bail out my sister Brittany's messy divorce. I was always the responsible one, never stirring trouble, while Brittany, despite her chaos, was their golden child. Before I tell you how I stopped being their doormat, share where you're reading from and hit subscribe if you've ever fought for what's yours. I grew up in suburban Illinois, always feeling like the overlooked older sister. When Brittany was born, I was 3, my parents' attention shifted. Family photos showed it, Brittany in the spotlight, mom and dad glowing, while I stood off to the side, half out of the frame. They weren't cruel on purpose, they just made it clear who their favorite was. Gloria set a good example, they'd say, my childhood mantra. If Brittany broke my science project the night before it was due, she was just curious. If she took my clothes and ruined them, I had to be more generous. Early on, the pattern was set, Brittany did what she wanted, and I had to deal with it. High school graduation was a turning point. My friends got lavish parties, cars, or trips from their parents. Me? A card with $20. We're saving for Brittany's dance competition, they said. They'd started her college fund, but told me, the independent one, to figure out my own path. College was tough from the start. I went to State University, not my dream school, but it had good financial aid. I juggled 3 jobs, mornings at the campus coffee shop, evenings waiting tables, and weekends doing data entry. Some nights, I got just 4 hours of sleep. My roommate Jessica once found me passed out on my textbooks. Your parents don't help at all? She asked, shocked. They believe in self-sufficiency, I said, the words sounding hollow. Meanwhile, Brittany went to a pricey private university with housing, a meal plan, and an allowance. At holiday breaks, she'd share stories of sorority parties and spring break trips while I sat there, too tired to talk. After college, I got an entry-level job at a Chicago financial firm. The pay wasn't great, but I had a plan. I lived in a tiny studio with used furniture, packed my lunch daily, and watched every cent. Coworkers thought I was standoffish when I skipped happy hours, but I was saving for a home. For 5 years, I cut out vacations, new clothes, anything unnecessary. At 28, I had enough for a down payment on a 1-bedroom apartment in a decent Chicago area. Signing those papers was my proudest moment, no one helped me. It was all mine. The apartment was a fixer-upper, old kitchen, worn carpet, a bathroom stuck in the 1980s. Over 2 years, I made it my own. I learned to tile from YouTube, painted every wall, and hunted clearance sales for fixtures. Each upgrade meant extra hours worked and small joys skipped. This wasn't just a place to live, it was proof of my grit. Brittany's life went differently. After college, she bounced between jobs, never lasting 6 months. Toxic workplace, creepy boss, or they didn't value me were her excuses. My parents always sympathized, offering money and their spare room. At 26, Brittany met Kevin Thompson, a 34-year-old investment banker from a wealthy family. Their whirlwind romance led to an engagement in 4 months and a lavish wedding funded by my parents' retirement savings. I chipped in what I could and was maid of honor, hoping this was Brittany's fresh start. He's rich, she whispered at the reception, champagne spilling. I'm set for life. Her words unsettled me, but I brushed it off. After Brittany's marriage, family gatherings got easier. With her settled, my parents sometimes asked about my life and job. I kept my distance, limiting visits and calls to guard my peace. Conversations stayed light, and I dodged personal questions. It wasn't ideal, but it worked. Then came a phone call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday night, and I'd just gotten home from work. Gloria, it's Mom. Brittany's having marital problems. We're having a family dinner Saturday to talk about it. Be there. Her tone left no room for debate. I had no idea this dinner would spark a chain of events that would force me to rethink my entire family. Saturday came, and I drove to my parents' house, a knot of dread in my stomach. Family dinners were rarely fun, but this one felt especially heavy. I brought wine as a peace offering, though I suspected we'd need more by the night's end. Inside, the mood was tense. My father, Robert, sat stiffly at the table's head. My mother, Martha, moved around the kitchen with nervous energy. Brittany was missing. "Where's the star of the show?" I asked, keeping my voice light. In the guest room, struggling, Mom whispered, as if Brittany might hear from upstairs. "Don't mention Kevin unless she does." Dinner was quiet until the main course. As Mom served the roast, Brittany walked in. I nearly dropped my fork. My usually polished sister looked rough, sweatpants instead of designer clothes, unwashed hair, red-rimmed eyes. "Nice to see you, Val," Brittany snapped, her voice sharp with bitterness. Before I could answer, my father cleared his throat. "Let's cut to the chase. Brittany and Kevin are divorcing." I offered sympathy, noting they'd been married less than 3 years. "I'm sorry." "What happened?" My question set off a storm. Mom gasped like I'd cursed. Dad's face darkened. Brittany burst into loud sobs. "Kevin's being unfair," Mom said, rushing to comfort her. "He's leaving her with nothing." Through tears, accusations, and reluctant admissions, the truth came out. Brittany had a 6-month affair with Kevin's friend, partly in their shared home. When Kevin found out, he filed for divorce. "The prenup has a fidelity clause," Brittany wailed. "He says I get nothing because I cheated." "There's got to be something," I said. "The law usually splits some assets." "That's the issue," Dad cut in. "Kevin's lawyers are sharp. The prenup's airtight. She might get a tiny settlement, but not what she deserves for 3 years with him." I held back from saying Kevin seemed generous and patient. Instead, I asked, "So, what's next?" My parents shared a look, one I knew from childhood when they'd spent my college fund on Brittany's Sweet 16. "She needs to fight this," Mom said. "She needs the best lawyer to break that prenup." "Lawyers like that cost money," Dad added. "Money we don't have." Dessert sat untouched as Mom's tone turned pleading. "We've been thinking about your apartment." "My apartment?" I echoed, confused. "It's worth more now, right?" Dad asked. "With your renovations and the neighborhood's growth?" A chill hit me as their plan sank in. "You could sell it," Mom said, leaning in. "Use the profit to cover Brittany's legal fees. You can rent for a bit." The silence was heavy. They were serious, expecting me to sell my home, built on years of sacrifice, to fund Brittany's divorce after her infidelity. "No way," I said, my voice firm despite the anger rising. "Gloria," Dad started, lecturing, "family helps family. We pitch in when someone's in trouble." "When have you ever helped me?" I blurted. Mom looked hurt. "We raised you, gave you a home, food." "The bare minimum," I shot back. "I worked through college while you paid for Brittany. I lived in a leaky apartment to save for this place. Every upgrade was my sweat." "It's just an apartment," Brittany cut in. "You'll get another." "This is my life." "This apartment is my life," I said. "It's everything I've worked for. I'm not selling." Dad's face reddened. "It could be a loan, not charity." I almost laughed. "A loan? Like the $4,000 Brittany borrowed for her rental? Or the car you co-signed that got repossessed?" "That's not fair," Mom protested. "No, what's not fair is asking me to ruin my life because Brittany cheated and now faces consequences." I offered options: a home equity loan for them, Brittany working to pay a lawyer in installments, or accepting a smaller settlement. They rejected every idea. "We're maxed out from her wedding," Dad admitted. "No lawyer takes payments for this," Mom insisted. "I deserve half of Kevin's wealth," Brittany said, like it was obvious. The argument dragged on, getting heated. They tried guilt, family loyalty, then manipulation. After all we've done, Mom said, tearing up. If you had any decency, Dad added. You're just jealous, Brittany spat. I stood up. I'm done. I won't sell my apartment. I'll help Brittany with a resume or drive her to interviews, but I won't destroy my security. At the door, Dad called out, "This isn't over, Gloria. You'll do right by your sister." His tone chilled me, but I left without looking back. Driving home, I hoped they'd come to their senses, that this crazy demand would fade. I was so wrong. The next weeks were a nightmare I wasn't ready for. It started with constant calls from my parents and Brittany. When I stopped answering, texts flooded in, guilt trips like, "How do you sleep knowing your sister's suffering?" to threats, "You'll regret abandoning family." I blocked their numbers, craving peace. Instead, it got worse. Aunts, uncles, cousins I rarely spoke to contacted me, all saying I had to help Brittany. My parents were spreading their story to the family. "Your mom's heartbroken," said Aunt Patricia, who hadn't called in 3 years, not even for my 30th. "How can you be so selfish?" "Because I won't sell my home to fund Brittany's divorce after she cheated?" I asked. "That's not the point," she said, proving they were hiding key details. Things got worse when my bank alerted me to an unauthorized login attempt. Someone used my old password, tripping the security system. The bank confirmed the attempt came from my parents' house. It hit me hard. They tried to access my accounts without permission. What if they'd succeeded? Would they have taken money or checked my balances to pressure me more? The betrayal left me feeling raw and exposed. Before I could process it, Brittany upped the ante. During a client meeting, my assistant pulled me aside. "Your sister's in the lobby, causing a scene," she whispered. I rushed out to find Brittany yelling at the receptionist, dressed all wrong for my office, her voice echoing across the floor. Clients and coworkers stared. "What are you doing?" I hissed, pulling her toward the door, mortified. "Since you're ignoring us, I came to see your precious career while my life's a mess," she snapped. "Leave now," I said. "Not until you help me. Kevin's lawyers want a quick settlement." "I've got nothing, Gloria, nothing. You could sell your apartment." "Quiet down," I begged, feeling every eye on us. "This is my workplace." "I don't care," she shot back. "You don't care about me, so why should I care about your job?" Security showed up, called by the receptionist. As they led Brittany out, she hurled insults and accusations for all to hear. I went back to my meeting, hands shaking, facing awkward client glances. "Family issue," I mumbled. "Can we continue?" The meeting went on, but my reputation for calm professionalism took a hit. That afternoon, my boss, Gregory, called me in. "You okay, Gloria?" That was intense. I wanted to shrug it off but ended up spilling everything. He listened, his face growing serious. "This is harassment," he said. "Have you thought about a lawyer?" I hadn't seen it as a legal issue, just a messy family fight. But his words made me realize how bad it had gotten. I wasn't sleeping, my work was slipping, and every phone buzz made me jump. That night, I met my friend Zoe at a quiet bar far from my usual spots. "You look awful," she said as I sat down. "Thanks," I said, taking the wine she offered. "I'm serious, Val. You're thinner, with dark circles. This is eating you up." I told her everything, from the bank attempt to Brittany's outburst. Zoe's face darkened. "This isn't just family drama," she said. "They're terrorizing you. Trying to access your accounts? Showing up at work? That's sabotage. I keep hoping they'll back off if I stay strong," I said. Zoe shook her head. "People who cross boundaries like this don't just stop. Your family's never respected your limits. Why start now? Her words hit home. I'd always bent to their will, especially for Brittany. Standing firm now was a huge shift they wouldn't accept. You need legal help, Zoe said, echoing Gregory. Maybe a cease and desist letter. I nodded, realizing I needed more than willpower, maybe legal protection too. The next week, I tried one last time to talk sense into my parents. I asked them to meet at a downtown coffee shop, hoping a public place would keep things civil. They showed up looking stern but calm. I want to sort this out, I started. I get that you're worried about Brittany, but your pressure is too much. We wouldn't need to pressure you if you'd do what's right, Dad said. Selling my home isn't right for me, I shot back. It's always about you, Mom muttered. Yes, when it's my home and security, it is, I said. I'll help Brittany find a job or offer support, even a place to stay short-term. But I won't sell. They exchanged a look I couldn't read. We hoped you'd be reasonable, Dad said. You leave us no choice. What's that mean? I asked, my stomach tightening. You'll see, Mom said darkly. 3 days later, I got my answer. A courier met me at home with legal papers. My parents were suing me, claiming I'd promised to sell my apartment to fund Brittany's divorce. They even said they had witnesses. They wanted the court to force me. I stood in my kitchen, papers shaking in my hands, stunned. My own parents were suing me over a lie. Then I saw the worst part, they'd used my childhood diaries, left at their house, as evidence. I'd written about wanting to care for my family, private thoughts now twisted against me in court. They'd violated my finances, my career, and now my deepest feelings. That moment broke something in me. The daughter who craved their approval, who stayed connected despite their neglect, was gone. In her place was someone ready to fight back. The lawsuit was the last straw. I read the papers 3 times, struggling to grasp my parents' betrayal, then sank to my kitchen floor. For the first time since I was a kid, I let myself really cry about my family. Not the quiet tears I'd always held back, but raw, choking sobs that left me breathless. The pain of always being second, never good enough despite my hard work, and always expected to give while Brittany took, it all broke through my defenses. I don't know how long I sat on the floor, but the tears finally stopped, leaving me empty yet oddly clear-headed. My phone kept buzzing with texts from relatives who'd heard about the lawsuit. I ignored them all, except one from my boss, Gregory, heard what happened. Take tomorrow off. I know someone you should meet. At breakfast in a quiet diner near work, he saw my face and ordered coffee without a word. When the waitress left, he slid a card across the table. Elena Vasquez, top family law and litigation attorney. She's tough as nails. I stared at the card. I can't afford her. Keeping my apartment is the whole point. Gregory shook his head. She owes me a favor. The first meeting's on me, and she'll work with you after that. Why help me? I asked, confused. People usually wanted something back. Because this is wrong, he said plainly. And you're one of my best analysts. I don't want to lose you to this chaos. His kindness almost made me cry again. I took the card, mumbling thanks. Elena's office was all sleek glass and chrome, high above the river. She was even more daunting, sharp eyes, perfect suit, no-nonsense vibe that made me sit taller. After I explained everything, she said, "So, your parents are suing you to force you to sell your apartment, claiming a verbal promise you never made, using your old diaries as proof you meant to help family." "Yeah," I said. She gave a quick, disbelieving laugh. Their case is flimsier than a sandcastle in a storm. It won't stand up in court. But she raised a finger. Still, we can't ignore it. Going this far means they're desperate or badly advised, maybe both. Desperate people do unpredictable things. Elena grilled me on my apartment ownership, my financial independence, and the harassment. She took notes, nodding or frowning. "Checked your credit report lately?" she asked out of the blue. "No." "Why?" "Just a hunch. If they tried accessing your bank, they might have tried other things." That afternoon, I checked my credit and found a shock: student loans in my name from college I never took out. I'd been paying interest on them through auto withdrawals I thought were for my real loans. My parents had used my social security number and forged my signature. The money didn't go to my education, likely to family expenses or Brittany's whims. I called Elena right away. "That's fraud." "Criminal fraud," she said. "Document everything." The hits kept coming. Digging through old records, I found emails from my parents to relatives, sent to a shared family account I rarely checked. They called me selfish, saying I'd promised to sell my apartment for Brittany but backed out from jealousy. They'd been turning the family against me for weeks before the lawsuit. That night, my building's security called. My parents tried to get in, claiming I was having a mental health crisis. The guard followed protocol and blocked them. My security footage, set up after Brittany's work stunt, showed them lingering outside for an hour. The next day, they came back with a spare key I didn't know they had, but I'd changed the locks during renovations. The footage caught them trying to enter, with Dad taking notes or photos through my windows. "They're cataloging my stuff," I told Elena, horrified. "Or trying to prove you don't live there to claim you don't need it," she said grimly. "That's trespassing." The pressure was crushing. I took a week off work, too scared to leave my apartment, fearing what they'd do next. Zoe brought groceries and stayed over, worried about my mental state. "Talk to them once more," she urged. "Not to fix things, but to figure out their plan. Elena's got enough for your defense, but knowing their goal could help." I agreed, reluctant. With Zoe there, I called my parents on speakerphone, recording it with Elena's okay since Illinois requires consent, and I told them so. "I'm calling about the lawsuit," I said. "I'm recording this for legal reasons." After a pause, Dad said calmly, "Fine. We've got nothing to hide." "Why are you doing this?" "You know you can't force me to sell my home." "We know what we're doing," Mom replied. "The judge will get it when we explain." "Explain what?" "That Brittany cheated and you want me to fix it?" "Don't be vulgar," Mom snapped. "Family helps family. You're the responsible one. Brittany needs you, and you can help. So, because I worked hard, I should lose my home while Brittany gets a free pass?" "She's different," Dad said, like it was obvious. "She's not built for hardship like you. She needs more help." "I wasn't built for it," I said, voice shaking. "You forced me into it with your favoritism and never holding her accountable." "We love you both the same," Mom insisted. "No, you don't. You never have. And now you're trying to steal the one thing I built despite your neglect." Silence hung heavy. Then Dad's voice turned cold. "Strange, we always knew it'd come to this, Gloria. Even as a kid, too serious, too independent, we saw you as Brittany's safety net. That's your role. Accept it." His words hit like punches. I'd felt this expectation forever, but hearing it so bluntly was a gut-wrenching betrayal. "I'm done with that role," I said firmly. "Not anymore." "Then we'll push forward with the lawsuit," Mom said. "We raised you, sacrificed for you. You owe us." The call ended, and I sat stunned. Zoe put her arm around me. "You heard that, right?" I asked. "They see me as Brittany's backup plan." "I heard," she said grimly. "Your phone recorded it too." That night, alone on my balcony, I stared at Chicago's skyline, processing the truth. I'd spent my life chasing their love, but they raised me as Brittany's insurance, not a daughter to cherish. It hurt, but it also freed me. I didn't need their approval anymore. I could fight back with everything I had. Next morning, I called Elena. I'm not just defending against their lawsuit, I said. I want to countersue for harassment, emotional distress, identity theft, the fake loans, everything. They'll never use me again. Her voice stayed calm, but I felt her approval. Now we're talking. I'll make a plan. Hanging up, I felt an odd peace. The worst was done. They'd shown their true colors in the cruelest way, but it released me from chasing their love. I could now protect myself and live by my own rules. With Elena's help, I built my defense and countersuit. We met Saturday in her office, the glass table buried under documents, property records, bank statements, credit reports, and family conversation transcripts. First, we crushed their baseless lawsuit, Elena said. That's easy. The countersuit will be trickier but worth it. We tackled the property claim first. I gathered my mortgage application, showing I was the sole buyer, bank statements proving my down payment came from my savings, and maintenance fee records, all paid by me. I even found renovation receipts, all my own money. This proves you're financially independent, Elena said. They have no claim to your apartment. Next, the so-called verbal agreement. My emails and texts from the family dinner and after showed I never agreed to sell, only refused. Their case relies on a promise that never happened, Elena said. Even if it did, property deals need written contracts under the law. They've got nothing. The fake student loans needed deeper digging. Elena linked me with Marcus, an identity theft expert. He traced the loans, finding forged signatures and showing the funds never went to my education. These loans total over $30,000, he said, showing the papers. With interest, you've paid nearly $40,000. I was floored. $40,000 stolen by my parents, money that could have eased my college grind or helped me buy my apartment sooner. While the legal team handled finances, Zoe helped me track the harassment. We built a timeline of their calls, texts, emails, social media jabs, the workplace scene, and their apartment entry attempts. Security footage from my building and office showed their escalating behavior. This shows a clear pattern, Elena said. From guilt-tripping to financial snooping to stalking. No judge will like this. I took steps to shield myself. I added more security cameras at home, told work security to block my family, and set up new accounts with tighter security. Zoe checked my apartment when I was at work, ensuring no one got in. Just as we finalized our plan, Kevin, Brittany's soon-to-be ex, messaged me, asking to meet. After checking with Elena, I agreed, choosing a public restaurant with cameras. Kevin looked worn out, far from the confident guy I saw at their wedding. We got coffee and sat quietly until he spoke. I'm sorry for what your family's doing. This isn't your burden. Thanks, I said, surprised. How'd you hear about the lawsuit? Brittany's lawyer brought it up in talks, said your apartment sale would boost her settlement. My lawyer was baffled. He paused, then handed me a folder. This might help your case, Brittany's bank records and texts. I opened it carefully. It held bank statements with huge, unexplained withdrawals, texts between Brittany and her lover about hiding their affair, and messages with my parents plotting to pressure me for her divorce funds. Why are you sharing this? I asked, puzzled. Kevin sighed. What they're doing is wrong. I loved Brittany, despite it all, but I can't watch your family ruin you to save her. Especially since, he paused. Since what? Her gambling problem. It's serious, started with online poker during the pandemic, then casino trips while I was away for work. She lost over $100,000 last year. I was floored. My parents framed Brittany's divorce as just needing a better lawyer for the prenup. They never mentioned gambling. Do they know? I asked. They do. They covered some of her losses before I found out. That's why they're desperate for cash, they're stretched thin bailing her out. This changed everything. They weren't just helping with a divorce, they wanted me to fix Brittany's massive financial mess. I brought Kevin's documents to Elena. She studied them, her face lighting up. "This is gold," she said. "It shows Brittany's reckless spending and their scheming, which destroys their court claims. Kevin needs to be ready to testify if needed." With everything ready, Elena filed our response to their lawsuit and our countersuit, charging harassment, emotional distress, identity theft for the fake loans, privacy invasion for using my diaries, and trespassing for the apartment incidents. We demanded repayment for the loan interest, damages for my suffering, and a court order to stop their contact at my home or work. "What's next?" I asked after filing. "We wait for their reply," Elena said. "Our evidence is strong. Their lawyer, if they have a good one, will tell them to drop their suit and settle ours." Waiting was tough. I dove into work, thankful for Gregory's support. He gave me low-profile projects to rebuild my confidence after Brittany's office stunt. Zoe was my rock, checking in daily, calming my nerves. "You're not just defending yourself," she'd say. "You're showing you won't be used. This is for your future, not just your apartment." 2 weeks later, their lawyer responded, as Elena predicted, dropping their lawsuit but fighting our countersuit. They claimed it was all parental concern and denied knowing about the fake loans, despite clear proof. "This is good," Elena said. "Their case is weak, and they know it. They're bluffing before they settle." 3 days later, their lawyer offered a deal. They'd drop apartment claims, give a weak apology for the misunderstanding, and pay a small amount for the loans if I dropped my suit. "This is insulting," I told Elena. "They committed fraud and harassment, and think a half-hearted sorry fixes it?" "I agree," she said. "We'll counter with terms that match their actions." Our counteroffer was firm: full loan repayment with interest, therapy costs for my distress, a legal no-contact order unless I initiate, and an admission of their fraud and harassment. They rejected it, believing family ties would make me cave. They didn't get how their actions had cut those ties. With talks stalled, we headed to court, confident in our evidence. As the date neared, I felt strangely calm. My apartment, the heart of this fight, became my haven. Each night, I touched the walls I painted, the counters I saved for, reminding myself I was fighting for my right to my own life, free from their exploitation. Court day felt inevitable. I wore a navy suit, aiming for confidence and stability. Elena met me outside the courthouse, her calm boosting mine. "You've got truth and proof," she said as we walked up. "They've got nothing." The courtroom was smaller than I expected, more personal, more intense. My parents and Brittany sat across from us with their lawyer, a frazzled guy flipping through papers last minute. They wouldn't look at me. Judge Harriet Wilson, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, entered. After introductions, she scanned the filings, her face showing frustration. "Let's be clear," she said. "Their original suit about a verbal property agreement is dropped. What's left is a countersuit for harassment, emotional distress, identity theft, privacy invasion, and trespassing. Correct?" Both lawyers nodded. "Good," Judge Wilson said. "Let's tackle these claims one by one." The courtroom felt draining yet bizarre. Elena laid out our evidence with precision: the fake loan documents, the recorded call where my parents called me Brittany's safety net, security footage of their apartment break-in attempt, the workplace scene, and their relentless harassment. I kept my face neutral, but watching my parents squirm as each fact landed was tough. Brittany switched between defiance and tears, especially when Kevin's proof of her gambling hit the table. Their lawyer's response was weak. He painted their actions as family concern, claiming I agreed to the loans, false, as I wasn't even there when they were taken out, and said their apartment visits were about my mental health, contradicted by texts about eyeing my belongings. Judge Wilson cut him off often, her sharp questions exposing their flimsy defense. "So, forging loans in someone's name is parental love?" she asked, skeptical. His weak reply about family dynamics made her eyebrows shoot up. The tide turned when Dad testified. Elena's questions cracked his calm facade. Pressed on the call where he said I was Brittany's backup, he doubled down. Families have roles, he said. Gloria's capable, independent. Brittany needs more help. It's normal to expect family to pitch in based on their strengths. Did you ever help Gloria with your strengths? Elena asked. We raised her, gave her a home. Did you pay for her college, like Brittany's? No, or her apartment or renovations. No, but that's not the point. It's exactly the point, Elena shot back. You say family helps family, but you've never helped Gloria, only demanded she sacrifice for Brittany. Dad's face flushed. Brittany needed it more. Because she avoids consequences? Elena pressed. Like the gambling debts behind this divorce mess? At that, Brittany jumped up. This is so unfair, she cried. Everyone sides with Val. She's so perfect with her job and apartment. She's jealous of me. Control your client, Judge Wilson snapped at their lawyer. But Brittany kept going. You don't get how hard it is to be me. Everyone expects greatness, and one mistake, losing $100,000 gambling and cheating aren't small mistakes, I said softly, my first words. Shut up, she yelled. You don't know my pressure. Mom and Dad wanted me to shine, while you got to be boring and responsible. Her outburst stunned the room. My parents looked humiliated, their lawyer defeated. Judge Wilson called a recess. Elena squeezed my arm. That just sealed your win, she whispered. Back in session, Judge Wilson ruled swiftly, dismissing their objections and siding with me on every count. My parents had to repay the fake loans with interest, cover my legal fees, and pay for my emotional distress. A restraining order barred them from contacting me at home or work without permission. Also, she said, eyeing my parents, I'm sending the loan fraud to the DA for possible criminal charges. I suggest you repay quickly to show good faith. Her words hit hard. Mom cried softly, Dad sat frozen, and Brittany stared at the floor, her fire gone. As we left, my parents tried to approach. Elena blocked them, citing the restraining order. This isn't what family does, Dad said over her shoulder. No, I replied. Family doesn't steal from their kids or try to take their home. They don't harass, stalk, or sue. I protected myself from people who've shown they don't care about me. You'll regret this, Mom said through tears. You'll need us someday. I've needed you my whole life, I said, and you always picked Brittany. Now I'm picking me. Elena led me away. I didn't look back. Word of the ruling spread fast among relatives. Some, fed my parents' story, were shocked by the fraud and harassment. Others, who'd seen their favoritism toward Brittany growing up, quietly supported me. Aunt Helen, Mom's more observant sister, emailed, I saw how they treated you. I should have spoken up. I'm sorry. The financial fallout hit my parents hard. Besides loan repayments and damages, they faced huge legal fees and possible criminal charges. Weeks later, they sold their house, moving to a condo to pay up. Brittany, without their support, had to work for the first time in years. Friends said she got a retail job and a small apartment after taking a reduced divorce settlement. At first, my win felt empty. I'd lost my birth family. But over weeks, I saw the freedom in it. No more tiptoeing around them. No more hiding my success to spare Brittany's feelings. No more sacrificing for nothing in return. For the first time, I could build real, mutual relationships with people who valued me for me, not what I could give. 3 months after the court hearing, a letter from my father landed in my hands. Elena vetted it first to ensure it didn't violate the restraining order, then passed it to me with a caution, think carefully about reading it. The note was short, a mix of self-justification, veiled blame, and a tug at family ties, we're still your parents. One day, you might welcome us back. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once torched, aren't worth rebuilding. 6 months later, my life had shifted in ways I hadn't expected. My apartment, once the heart of the conflict, became my sanctuary. I repainted walls, swapped out furniture tied to family visits, and crafted a space that screamed me no trace of my parents' or Brittany's influence. I started therapy with Dr. Lena Phillips, a family trauma expert. Our weekly sessions were raw, peeling back layers of neglect and conditional love I'd buried for years. "You were parentified early," Dr. Phillips said in one session. "Forced to be the responsible one without the support that role demands." I thought it was just being the older sister, I confessed. "There's a difference," she replied. "You were pushed into adulthood as a child, while Brittany was coddled into her 20s. This truth hit hard. My apartment wasn't just a home, it was my rebellion, proof I could prioritize myself after decades of sacrifice. Therapy sparked another change, building my chosen family. Zoe was my anchor, but I reconnected with college friends I'd lost touch with during my grind years. I joined a book club and a pottery class, meeting people like Sarah and Jamal, who brought joy without strings. We started traditions, Sunday brunches, movie marathons, weekend hikes, rooted in mutual care, not duty. These bonds showed me what real connection felt like, free of manipulation. At work, Gregory's support kept me steady. He shielded my career from the family fallout, assigning me projects that rebuilt my confidence after Brittany's office scene. His mentorship led to a promotion to senior analyst, with a raise that fast-tracked paying off my real student loans. "Tough fights reveal our strength," he said after the promotion. "You've handled this with grace." "Not always," I admitted, recalling my tearful breakdowns. "Grace isn't never breaking," he said. "It's how you rebuild." His words stuck, a reminder I was stronger than I thought. 8 months in, Brittany emailed me via Elena, respecting the restraining order. Unlike my parents' messages, which I ignored, her tone was different. "I know you might hate me, and you're right to. I've been reflecting on our childhood, how mom and dad favored me and pressured you. I thought you had it easier, being so capable. I didn't see their unfairness. I'm not asking forgiveness, just saying I'm getting help for my gambling and taking responsibility. I hope we might talk someday, but I get it if we don't." I shared it with Dr. Phillips. "Is she sincere?" she asked. "I'm unsure," I said. "Brittany's always known how to play people." "What could she want?" "Nothing clear. She's got a job, an apartment, our parents, though they're stretched thin." "Maybe it's not about things," Dr. Phillips suggested. The idea that Brittany might be growing was jarring. I'd pegged her as the spoiled favorite forever. Her changing didn't fit that mold. After weighing it with Dr. Phillips and Elena, I allowed limited emails with Brittany, keeping strict boundaries but leaving room for cautious reconciliation. Our exchanges were careful, current events, not past pain. Slowly, a new Brittany appeared. Without our parents enabling, she was struggling but evolving. The entitled princess was fading, replaced by someone more grounded. I stayed skeptical but open to her progress. My parents, though, showed no growth. Their occasional messages, sent through relatives, called the lawsuit a family spat, ignoring their fraud and harassment. They mourned our distance without owning their actions. "Some people can't reflect enough to change," Dr. Phillips said when I showed her their latest note. "Distance isn't punishment, it's protection." I held firm boundaries with them, while slowly nurturing a fragile tie with Brittany, learning to choose who deserved my energy. A year after the trial, I hosted a party in my apartment to mark the milestone and my healing. Zoe, Gregory and his wife, my new friends, and Elena filled the space with laughter. Eating and talking in the home I'd fought for brought deep peace. Later, Zoe and I sat on my balcony, city lights glowing. "Any regrets?" she asked. "For standing up so fully?" I paused. "I regret it was necessary. I regret they couldn't be the parents I needed. But I don't regret protecting myself. I spent too long burning out for them, especially Brittany. Choosing my well-being wasn't selfish, it was survival." "You stand taller now," Zoe said. Because I'm on solid ground, I replied, not shifting to please others. The lesson was brutal but transformative. True family, blood or chosen, lifts you up, not drains you. Love doesn't demand you shrink, it's mutual, not parasitic. My apartment was more than bricks. It was my declaration of freedom, proof I could set boundaries and live my way. Each room held the fight and the peace that followed, a daily reminder of my shift from dutiful daughter to self-respecting woman. Zoe hugged me as she left. I'm proud of you, Val, for winning and for the aftermath. Her words lingered as I got ready for bed. The aftermath was as tough as the fight, reshaping how I saw family, love, and my worth. I'd built something stronger, truer. 3 months later, my new rhythm felt solid. Work was exciting, my promotion brought bigger projects, and Gregory had me mentor younger analysts, sharing lessons from my struggles. It felt good to guide others. Outside work, my chosen family grew. Zoe and I planned a group hiking trip, my first real vacation after years of saving every penny. The thrill of adventure with people who cared was a revelation. Therapy with Dr. Phillips kept uncovering truths. We explored how my parents' expectations fueled my need to overachieve. You tied your worth to doing, she said. Now you're learning it's about being. It was messy, but each session left me lighter, like shedding weight I'd carried too long. Brittany and I emailed monthly. She was honest, attending therapy, facing her gambling and entitlement. She shared small victories, like keeping her retail job for 6 months. I responded carefully, keeping things light but real. Trust wasn't there yet, but her effort was clear. My parents' messages, relayed through others, stayed unapologetic, framing themselves as victims. I sent them to Elena and stayed no contact. At 9 months, Marcus, the financial forensic specialist, called. He'd found more fake loans in my name, pushing the total damage to $50,000 with interest. Elena added this to our claims, demanding full repayment. My parents' lawyer resisted, but the evidence was undeniable. They settled, paying another $20,000, selling more assets to cover it. It hurt to see their struggle, but they'd made their choices. I used some settlement money for a scholarship at my old college, helping students like me who had to hustle. It turned stolen funds into something meaningful. The rest went to my mortgage, shrinking my debt faster. Each payment was a step toward freedom. By 18 months, I joined a book club and pottery class, hobbies I'd never had time for. Sarah from book club and Jamal from pottery became close friends. We'd grab coffee, share stories, plan outings, moments free of family baggage. My apartment reflected this: local art on the walls, thriving plants, a space of warmth and creativity. Brittany's emails grew more open. She admitted our parents' favoritism hurt her too, creating pressure to be perfect while stunting her growth. I leaned into their spoiling, she wrote. It weakened me. I respected her honesty but kept my distance. Dr. Phillips guided me, you can care without diving in. So I offered kind words but held my boundaries. My parents' messages faded, still lacking remorse. Aunt Helen, who'd apologized post-trial, became a quiet ally, sharing updates without pushing me to reconnect. She said they'd moved to a smaller condo, financially strained but too proud to admit fault. I felt sadness, but Dr. Phillips reminded me, grieving what could have been is okay. It doesn't mean you owe them anything. 2 years after the trial, I hosted a bigger gathering. Zoe, Sarah, Jamal, Gregory's team, and even Brittany's therapist, who I'd met through her emails, filled my apartment. We laughed, ate, and toasted resilience. I sent Brittany a photo of the night, a small gesture. She replied, "Your life looks beautiful. I'm happy for you." It felt like a step forward. Work soared. I led a major project, winning back clients who'd seen Brittany's outburst. Gregory hinted at another promotion. Financially, I was close to paying off my mortgage, a dream once out of reach. Therapy shifted from pain to growth, teaching me to trust and embrace joy without fear. My apartment kept evolving. I added a reading nook, a space for dreams without pressure. Every corner told my story, painted walls, changed locks, a life claimed. It wasn't just home, it was proof I could stand firm. Looking back, the lawsuit broke me but also built me. It forced me to face my family's truth and my own value. I grieved the parents I never had, but that grief cleared room for a life on my terms, surrounded by people who valued me, not my sacrifices. Love, I learned, doesn't demand you shrink, it lifts you, mutual and free. The next year brought more growth. At the 2.5-year mark, I took that hiking trip with Zoe and our crew. Scaling trails, laughing under open skies, I felt alive, unburdened by the weight of family expectations. Back home, I started journaling again, not the diaries my parents exploited, but new ones, filled with hopes, not hurts. Writing helped me process, a habit Dr. Phillips encouraged. Brittany's progress continued. Her emails shared therapy breakthroughs and job stability. She'd moved to a better apartment, earned a small promotion. I'm learning to stand on my own, she wrote. I replied with encouragement but kept my distance, still healing from years of her taking. Dr. Phillips helped me balance empathy with self-protection, a skill I was still mastering. My parents' contact stopped entirely. Aunt Helen said they'd withdrawn from family events, embarrassed by their financial and legal fallout. I felt a twinge of pity, but their refusal to own their actions kept my boundaries firm. Elena monitored for any violations, ensuring my peace. At work, I earned that second promotion, becoming a team lead. Mentoring became my favorite part, guiding others through challenges felt like giving back without losing myself. Financially, I paid off my mortgage, a moment I celebrated with Zoe and friends over champagne in my apartment. Owning my home outright felt like cutting the last chain tying me to my past. I expanded my hobbies, taking up yoga and a cooking class. The kitchen, once a place of legal papers and tears, became a space of creation, spices, laughter, shared meals with friends. Sarah taught me her grandmother's lasagna recipe, and Jamal's spicy curry became a group favorite. These moments built a life rich with connection, not obligation. 3 years post-trial, I reflected on my journey. Therapy had shifted to monthly check-ins, focusing on sustaining my growth. I'd learned to trust my instincts, to choose relationships that fed my soul. Brittany and I met once, at a neutral cafe, with Elena's approval. She was different, quieter, humbler. We didn't rehash the past, just talked about now. It wasn't a full reunion, but a start, with clear boundaries. My apartment remained my anchor. I added a small patio garden, tending herbs in the mornings, a quiet ritual of care. Each plant, each room, reminded me of my fight and victory. I'd turned a battleground into a home, a symbol of my right to exist without apology. The lawsuit was my breaking point, but also my making. It stripped away illusions about my family and showed me my strength. I mourned the parents I deserved but never had, yet that loss opened doors to a life I'd never dared imagine, one of freedom, joy, and chosen love. I'd learned that protecting myself wasn't betrayal, it was building a foundation for a life that was truly mine. What about you? Have you ever had to draw a line with family who took you for granted? Or carried the weight of being the responsible one while others coasted? Share your stories below. If my journey resonates, hit like, subscribe, and share with anyone who needs to hear it's okay, sometimes essential, to put yourself first. Thanks for joining my story. And remember, your happiness matters too.